What I want to talk about today is oh boy. So this week, or rather, I should talk about my job first. So my job, I work in a store and all, and I uh I believe the way things work is schedules are decided 3 weeks in advance. And 3 weeks ago, I realized I only worked 2 weeks. Sorry, 2 days. Holy shit! I only worked 2 days for this particular work week period. It starts on Saturday, ends on Friday. So I was supposed to work Saturday and Sunday. There was an issue with this. It's not related to what happened today, but figured I might as well mention it. Uh, on Friday, the 24th, I look at my schedule and I'm working 2 to 11. I'm doing two closes on the weekend. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep a little bit late. I'm going to wake up in the morning and I'm gonna wake up a little late in the morning, but it's just basically so I'm not really tired on the shift. I'm not being lethargic and everything, trying to adjust my sleep schedule, be responsible, all that. Then I wake up around 10:40 a.m. Once I wake up, I realize that, well, I didn't realize anything. I woke up and I'm like, okay, I can get ready. I can wait a little bit actually. Um, but something told me to check the app that I usually get my schedule off of and everything. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do that. I open up the app. The app has logged me all the way out. It doesn't normally do this. And for context, it's like you have a username and password to log in the app, and then you have a PIN number to actually access all the menus and everything. Normally, you only have to put the PIN number in, but I have had the app force me to reset my PIN a couple of times. It happened twice back to back. Uh, I believe it was like the 27th of December and then the 1st or 2nd of January, but I hadn't had it happen again since then. So I was like, oh man, that sucks. I don't want to have to reset my pen again. Didn't actually have to reset my pen. So I'm like, okay, whatever. But I get a pop up and it says the app has been updated. Information regarding time cards has changed. How schedules are created is a bit different, so on and so forth. It's giving me like TLDR, but then I look at the little drop down thing that it has in the info button because it's supposed to give you more information. It actually didn't give me more context. So I was like, okay, I'll just have to ask somebody about that later. And then I noticed the update was pushed out on the 3rd, but I didn't get it until the 25th. So I'm like, okay, I wonder what that's about. I click on my schedule and I see that I'm now supposed to work 6 to 3 both days. So I'm just like, shit, I have missed most of my shift. But the other thing is, the app used to update me if my schedule changed. It wasn't doing that. So I'm like, okay, let me check my notification settings. My notification settings are on. The app can send me updates, and it just wasn't. So I have to figure out what I have to, fuck with that to figure out what's wrong with. I still haven't figured it out. But I'm like, I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna put in some PTO and do the rest of my shift because that way I will only get like um half a point for attendance, right? But then I realize by the time I get to work, like, because let's say it takes me 10 minutes to take a solid shower, 10 to 15 minutes, 10 minutes or so to make something to eat because I can eat the food while I'm walking to work because it takes me like 15, 20 minutes to walk to work. I would get there and I would only realistically be able to work for about like 3 hours and 40 minutes at most. So I would still actually get a point because I didn't work half my shift, like a full point. So I was like, fuck it, I'll call in and I'll just deal with it. I'll just make sure my attendance is better in the foreseeable future, so on and so forth. I didn't call anybody about it. I didn't talk about it. And this is also relevant for later, but I had two other instances where I called in. I basically called in because I work in the electronics section and I was vomiting and stuff like that. I was really just, I had a lot going on physically that would prevent me from staying in the area when I need to stay in the area for a number of reasons, high ticket items, helping customers. I need to be at the register, like all this, and then all the little stuff that I need to do throughout the day. So it just made more sense for me to call in and they put somebody else in that position that can do everything that they need to do. Again, I didn't tell anybody about this. The only reason it came up in conversation is because somebody asked me, a superior asked me once I came into work the subsequent days. But anyway, I get called on Monday when I'm sleeping in my bed, and I don't remember the conversation because I was that tired. I know the conversation went on for about 10 minutes because I remember I was just sitting here and the person who called me, like the manager, was just kind of rambling. Um, But I also had like when I answered the phone, literally the first thing I said is, "I just woke up. Like you woke me up." And she just kept going. So later in the day, I wake up and I see that I sent her a text message that said 6 to 3 Thursday and Friday. And I'm like, okay, I don't remember sending that, but I'm assuming on the phone she must have said something. And then me and my fucking tired ass stupor must have agreed to go in. And those were the times and she wanted them. Fine, whatever, right? Not that big of a deal. But then today, Thursday comes around, I go into the store and there's already somebody clocked in. They actually have somebody for the shift. So I'm just like, okay, is it just going to be us two? Because at least that way it like makes sense. But as it turns out, there was another person coming in at 9, a new person that's being trained and everything. Another person coming in at 10, somebody who's normally there. And I'm just like, well, it doesn't really make sense for me to be here. And I wasn't just going to leave immediately. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do what I was asked to do because this is like a lot of like heavy lifting type shit. And I didn't want to let the like leave the older lady with that. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do all this, and realistically, I know I'm gonna be done before 10, so I could leave at 10. That's like what I'm thinking. But I'm like, you know what? I'll leave at 12. So I called my manager to tell her that I'm gonna leave at 12, but she was like in a meeting or something. So I was like, oh, okay, don't worry about it. I'll just wait till you come back. I left it at that, right? When she came back, she was like, oh, what did you need? And I said that I'm leaving at 12. And she tried to argue against me and said that's not how this works. And I'm just like, well, I am still not scheduled for today. And yet I clocked in. And I don't need to be here because like there's one person here already working. I finished the tasks that you wanted me to finish in 90 minutes because, you know, didn't take me that long. And I'm perfectly fine doing some extra stuff at this point, but you have two more people coming in at 9 and 10, and then there's people closing and stuff. So like why am I here? Realistically speaking, as it turns out, I should have probably been scheduled for the night because there was one person working by themselves for the night shift. Like, I mean, I work by myself for the night shift a lot of the time, and I don't really mind it. But if you want to have two people in the area throughout the day, okay, fine, fair, whatever. So I come home, I eat, I drink, I lie down. I was talking to somebody about like Beyblade stuff. I was talking to somebody, well, a couple of different people about some Digimon related stuff. I started grinding Grand Blue Fantasy, but then I finally like took a nap, and I woke up about 4 hours later at 7 because I got another text. The text was about my schedule being changed for tomorrow. Presumably, I'm like, oh, it's so I don't leave or whatever the fuck, right? Assuming that there's a bunch of people. Like if I was alone tomorrow, I wouldn't walk. I wouldn't leave, obviously. But yeah, I'm not obligated to work if I'm not on the schedule. So I'm like, okay, please never do this again. Now that might have been taken the wrong way, because I didn't give context, so that's on me. But I was specifically referring to the fact that she called me while I was sleeping and she didn't like really think to adequately communicate to me. And when I said what I said in the store earlier today, she was trying to argue against me. And it's just like, you have no grounds to stand on because realistically speaking, if I am not actually on the schedule, if you did not update the times, if nobody updated the times, then there's really no argument. You can't give me a reprimand or anything like that because I wasn't scheduled to come in. And I mean, there's also the argument that, and like, because she didn't really ask me previously, like when she needed me to work, she didn't ask me. What she did was more so, oh, you're gonna do this because I need you to do this, or I need you to come in on this day. It wasn't like, can you work this day? Do you mind working this day? It was, I need you or you are going to do this. So while I don't know what she said, because again, I don't remember, I know what she's told me previously, so that's all I can go off of. But I end up explaining, like if I look at my phone right now, I shouldn't put it on screen, but I end up explaining that difference, and I specifically say this. She said no excuses. I said I saw the text message when I woke up and that was it. I'm not making an excuse. I was still asleep when you called me. I told you you woke me up when you called me. And today there were more than enough people I wasn't really needed. I'm perfectly fine with having a reasonable conversation about this. In the future, if you think you need me for something, tell me the day before instead of calling me while I'm off to avoid situations like this. I'm pretty sure I probably only said yes because you said you needed somebody because that's what the case was when you asked me previously at work. And when I say previously at work, I just mean prior instances of her asking me to come in on like a Friday or whatever because there's nobody to work in the mornings. That was it. She was like, "There's nobody to work this time. Can you come in?" I was just like, "Sure, whatever." I don't have a problem doing my job. I work hard when I am there. I just wanted to go back to sleep because I've been sick this whole time. That's not me making an excuse. This is me being upfront about all of this for the future. Like I literally wasn't telling her I'm not gonna do it. Like initially I had no intention on going tomorrow. If they didn't change my schedule, I would have stayed my ass home, right? But I'm gonna probably stay up for way too long. Probably gonna be up till like 3 a.m. I'm gonna get maybe 2 hours of sleep, 2.5 hours of sleep, and then I'm gonna go to work. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to do my job to the best of my ability. I'm going to deal with customers as best as I can. I'm going to help people as best as I can. But yeah, like I wasn't, I didn't have an attitude. But she responds to me in the future. Do not text my phone with your problems. Talk to me in person with another lead available. I'm done. I'll see you tomorrow. This pissed me off. That actually woke me all the way the fuck up, and I went to the store to talk to her superior. Now, I am a very unusual person. When I get mad, I don't know how to explain this. When I get mad, I might get a bit louder. Really, I tend to go to my normal voice level because I speak lower than my normal voice level a lot of the time because people tell me it's intimidating or whatever. So I'll be unrestrained to a degree, but I won't really be yelling. I'm still very much in a relatively clear state of mind. So I went there and I asked somebody in customer I told somebody in customer service. I don't know her name. I mean, I wouldn't say her name if I did, but I didn't know her name. I was like, "Excuse me, I work here. I do you know if I mentioned one of the higher ups' names and like, do you know if she's here right now? Because I need to talk to somebody or somebody on her level." She asked me why, and I was like, "Okay, I had a little situation. I have a grievance. Blah 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 blah." So one person who I know is above me uh, was there, and I just handed them my phone because they know about the type of situations that tend to happen with my specific manager. So she read through things, and then she told them who to call. I got directed to the person who's like technically directly above my boss, and it took a little minute. What the fuck is wrong with me? It took a little bit to find him because he was in one of the sections of the store that's like a bunch of fucking columns of like items. He's not really short or anything. It's just that the shelving is so much taller than both of us that it like we kept passing each other by without realizing it. Um, so we finally end up having a conversation. And likewise, they have a second party or a third party rather viewing the whole thing as like verification that whatever is happening, whatever is going on. So I just explained to them all of the stuff that I talked about, but then I also go on to mention literally when I was hired, I was told that I was part time. So I said, I'm not getting full time benefits. So unless you specifically need me for a certain day, I want part time hours. When slash if I become a full time employee, obviously give me full time hours. I ain't complaining about that. But if I'm not getting the full benefits, I don't want the full hours. But I am willing to work if you need me to work. Like if you really just if ain't nobody on the schedule for a certain thing, if you really need somebody, I'm fine with coming in. I'm fine with having that schedule. I'm not gonna complain about it. My problem was the fact that she decided to tell me, you know, to not text her with my problems when she's called me at my house more than once. When I'm working, she calls me repeatedly while I'm doing my job. Like let's say I go like if I don't know if she's clocking in at the same time as me tomorrow, but let's say she has three tasks for me and she tells me one of them needs to be done immediately, right? That might be the task that takes the longest. So I'm doing that task. I'm also having to deal with customers, right? So some people ask me questions, some people need to be checked out, whatever, whatever, whatever. Like I said earlier, that makes things take a little bit longer. I'm not saying that to complain about it. I'm just saying that because that's the reality of the situation. She's going to come there and complain about the fact that I'm not done, but then she'll also be like, "Oh, well, I need this other thing done. I need this other thing done. I need this other thing done. You should have done this a while ago." Like I just let it roll off me. It wasn't like really bothering me. I was just kind of ignoring her because my main thing is I come here to do my job appropriately. And the thing is, there absolutely are. I need to stop saying the thing is, but there absolutely are some instances where something immediate pops up and I need to shift priorities, and that's okay. But with her, it's never really clear because she'll say that for literally anything, right? And then she'll be complaining about the fact that, oh, you didn't finish this, you didn't finish this, you didn't finish this. Well, you keep interrupting me and telling me I need to do this other thing or I need to switch to doing one of the other things I hadn't worked on. So make up your mind. there were just so many little things that she had been doing. And it's like I hadn't ever disrespected her. Even today, I didn't really disrespect her. I didn't like call her out of her name. I didn't talk down to her. I didn't like I wasn't rude. I said a lot of stuff within my rights, basically. That was it. Or I was explaining my rights. And the crazy part about like me leaving when I left, right? The people who were like, I guess I don't want to say evaluating me, but like the people who I spoke to, they acknowledged that, I actually did do the appropriate thing. I actually handled myself appropriately. I didn't even like disrespect her when I said I was leaving. I gave her my solid reasoning for it. And the thing is, like again, by 10 o'clock, I literally didn't really have anything to do. All I was doing was price changes, and even with that, she kept haggling me because I was standing in one spot because like if you go in Best Buy, Target, Walmart, whatever, you know how they have the video game sections. It was like, okay, we have the PS4, PS5, we have Xbox, One Series X. Sometimes they'll separate the games. Sometimes they'll have like the same title, so it'll be like NBA 2K25, and they'll put the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X versions right next to each other, right? I realized that pretty much all of the games were in alphabetical order regardless of system. So I was like, oh, it doesn't make sense for me to print these out one by one and have to keep opening and closing the cases. So instead, I'll scan them all. I'll print them out, and then I'll separate them into each set of cases so I can just open one case, do all of them, open the next case, do all of them, open the third case, do all of them, and whatever. And it's just like I'm like, so I was talking with a coworker while I was doing this. We were talking about work stuff actually. Um, and then she keeps interjecting and being rude and disrespectful, and I'm just like, and she's like, oh, I know you want to talk to this person, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I am literally talking about work right now. I am asking them questions like so I can know stuff for the future. I didn't tell her that, but I'm thinking that. I'm just like, you're just being difficult. All of that got handled. I actually did like try to record talking about this outside a couple of times on my way back home. I meandered around. I was outside for like an hour because I was trying to cut this down to like 15, 20 minutes. But it's just so ridiculous, man. Like, I can admit that please never do this again on its own without like the context of what I was thinking may not be the most useful thing to hear. I am fully prepared to be accountable for that. If somebody asks me, I'll be like, yeah, yeah, that's fair, and that's also why I clarified after the fact. But for her to say what she said when I literally haven't called her, when I like the only time I really called her when she wasn't at work was because I didn't know. Like there was one night she handed me the keys to open the various cases and stuff like that, and she went somewhere and she told me to do something to put some stuff up. I put the stuff up and then I realized that, oh, I didn't even need the key for this. So where is she? I need to give this back to her because I don't know where this goes. I call her, turns out she went home 5 minutes ago, and then she has to tell me where to put the key because the people who I hand like one of the electronic keys to, I didn't know where they were. Um, so it was just like, oh yeah, hand this stuff off to a manager in XYZ place, and I was like, okay, but that's it. Like I don't get it, bro. You literally texted me and called me off of your personal phone, and like one other thing I mentioned, I'm just like, if you call me, right, and I just tell you that I just woke up, the common sense thing is to do one of two things. Either you tell me, oh, I'll call you back later. I need to ask you something important, right? Or you should call me back later when you wake up. You can text me that. There were so many fucking ways for her to handle that situation also that weren't as ignorant as the way she did. And the reason I'm recording all of this, the reason I'm talking about this, unfortunately, too much of anything going on here on my desk. But the reason I wanted to talk about all of this is because I'm pretty sure there are some people out there who probably need to hear something like this. Like if you are ever in a situation like this, speak up for yourself. Please speak up for yourself. Like You don't need to be rude and disrespectful when you do it. A lot of the time, it's better if you're not, because then if somebody starts lashing out at you, you have extra defense. Um, but yeah, you don't have to deal with the foolishness. You don't have to abide by people just treating you poorly like that, because I'm not about to do it. And one other thing that came out of this is I actually am gonna have better scheduling going forward that is better suited to my needs. Because like one thing I explained to them, I tutor sometimes. If I get two people that I can tutor on one of the days that I'm off, and I've planned around that, I'm making considerably more money than I would be at work. My pay rate isn't bad. I like an 8 hour shift gets me a bit over $100. I think it's like 110, 120, something like that. But if I can get a tutoring gig, even if I'm only tutoring two people, upfront fee plus, let's say they want me to tutor for 4 hours and there's like a lunch break or whatever, I'm probably making like 240 to 300, if not more. There have been instances that like I just like on my day off, I go do some card game shit, and this isn't like a like comparable metric really, but sometimes I winning prizing or whatever, I'm making a decent bit off of that. Not even because like I'm necessarily hitting all the chase cards or anything, but I have a TCG player account. I try to sell stuff on there, and sometimes I get upfront value. Sometimes I just have little commons and stuff that I sell, and I accrue value over time. It's not my main thing. It's just like a side thing that I do. Extra resources, extra funds. We all here trying to live our best lives and whatnot. It's just so fucking stupid to me, dude. Like you have somebody who comes to work, who doesn't really complain, who just does the job, and the only thing I really ask for from time to time is clarity, because there's a lot of things at this job that are not explained. And this wouldn't be a problem if it wasn't for the fact that they just operate very differently than a lot of places I've worked at before. Like a lot of policy that you normally would go through at stores just doesn't apply here. Like a lot of the time, if the card reader isn't working, there's an option to allow customers to key their cards in and their information and shit like that so they can pay for stuff, right? They don't want us doing that. They'll do it up front, but if I do it, I'll get yelled at. And I got yelled at because when I was doing my onboarding, it said this is, the process. This is one of the few things it did actually explain to me. I mean, I already knew it from working retail previously, but I'm just like, oh, okay, I can do that here. Then I was told that they don't want me doing it because of scams and shit. And I'm just like, okay, well, how was I supposed to know that? Like, where do I read that information? I wasn't being confrontational. I was asking that question because I'm like, I'm assuming if, this is something you don't want me doing, this is your like policy for this particular store or whatever, then there must be more. Where can I read that? Where can I inform myself? And again, I got yelled at and told that I'm asking too many questions, I'm being difficult, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm trying to make my job easier to do. I'm trying to not get yelled at in the future. I'm trying to avoid negative circumstances before they happen. I mean, and thankfully in this instance, upper management seems to be on my side, but like, bro, this is fucking stupid. It shouldn't have to be like this. But yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about. I should be getting a better like tripod thing because this is kind of trying to angle it like this specifically is really, really hard. But I was gonna play remote today if they didn't fuck me up like that. I was gonna play in Eagles remote tournament, but it is what it is, I guess. I did get a bunch of bulk sent to me, so I'll probably try sorting that on stream. Maybe after work tomorrow. We'll see if I'm too tired.